interrupt your program. This is a special report coming to you from the Skills and Technology newsroom high atop the towering metropolis of New York City. The following information has... Oh my God, I can't really do this for real. Anyway, here you go, Lou. Take it away.
So, a while back, you mentioned a word it's two words actually, and it goes back to your days in publishing, Joe. And those words were blue line. That sound familiar?
Yeah.
Okay. The next word today is more well known than it was in the context of when we were speaking about it, and that's the word font, F-O-N-T. And for those of you who don't know what font is, which I can't imagine anybody, it's the particular styling of letters. And what I found interesting and I wanted to talk to you today about, Joe, was how do you feel about fonts?
I think they're very useful.
Good. How so?
Okay, there you go. We're done. Hey, then remember, next time. No, go ahead. What do you want to know?
Well, here's the thing. I was looking at a magazine, Fast Company, and I found an article, and it said typefaces, also known as fonts, are like actors. And the article was basically saying that the font or the typeface called Eurostyle Extend, they thought it was like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Because if you think about Terminator, the movie, you can almost see that font, the title bars, and how the word Terminator looked. So they were equating that to Schwarzenegger. And then they had another one that was like Tom Hanks, which was Helvetica, which of course it's plain and, good and neighborly, and it's nice and quiet and inconspicuous. So I wanted to get your feeling, because you do a lot of television. Like, where do they come up with this stuff for that they put all over the screen? Is there a science behind it?
There's a creativity behind it. There's graphic designers, and then that coordinates with your producer.
Right.
And then there's a style guide, which is developed for a particular show.
Okay.
And in that, it says, okay, you can only use these fonts. You can only use, now, we're off the tangent, but you can only use colors, blah, 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 blah. But fonts become part of that package. So fonts are a design choice. And definitely fonts say something about what you're doing and what you're reading. It invokes some emotion one way or another, or some sense, some style.
So it's actually branding is what it sounds like you're talking about.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
And it also sounds like almost lighting in a weird way, because certain movies lit a certain way look scary, and I guess certain fonts look scary, like on Halloween when you look at all the stuff written with like drippy blood type lettering. It kind of sets the mood, right? That's what they're going for.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It comes off of that style guide. So they'll know when they decide what, like a Cartoon Network, look at their font,
right?
Their logo font
right.
isn't the same as NBC News. Fox has its own feel to it. And here's another thing. A lot of those fonts aren't commercially available. Like,
meaning?
There's actual graphic designers who develop a font. And that then becomes copywritten, and you can't just use that font. It's all licensing. Matter of fact, a lot of the fonts that are in the packages that you get on your Word doc and all that, there's licensing agreements to a lot of those things if somebody developed the font and is being used.
Do you know that's really crazy? Because as smart as I think I am sometimes, I never even thought that a designer actually has to do that. But then how the hell else would they be done?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And it's not just I'm a font designer, but
no.
You're a designer. They do graphics, and that's part of the game.
Wow, that's absolutely that's mind blowing. You know what else I found interesting? As I was reading the article, there was a lot of divisiveness about one particular font that everybody has a very specific opinion on. Either you love it or you hate it, or it's used in only one way and can't be used in another. And that's that Comic Sans font, COMIC-SANS. And I'm telling you, Joe, as I went through this, people were like, you gotta be kidding. An attorney working for the government sent a letter to Congress, an official document written in Comic Sans. He's a joke. And I'm like, wow, where does this come from?
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
Yeah, totally.
As you were
Totally.
saying that, I'm not surprised because they're, like we were just saying, they connotate a very particular feeling and a style. But as you were saying that, I was thinking, I wonder if that came out with a different name.
Huh. Interesting.
If it would have, I mean, just the fact that it has that comic in its name.
Interesting.
If you change the name, would that have given that a different vibe? My guess is yeah. Because that's the whole problem with a lot of that stuff is the naming of it. I find it all the time in sound effects.
Yeah.
And in, music clips, a lot of what we refer to as needle drop or what today's referred to as library music.
Right.
When you're trying to find something that has energy that isn't, you don't have to pay a licensing fee for. And by the way, that's legal. That's not illegal. But I try to go by their titles, and it's impossible because what the person who's titling it has a feeling for the music. It's his impression or her impressions.
Right.
So same thing with fonts. The guy who came up with Comic Sans may have thought it was fun and lighthearted and should be used in kiddie books. And for some other reason, maybe it should have been used for other things, but it's stigmatized as that now.
That's really, 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 really crazy. And I don't understand the polarization. But one of the things as I read on a little bit more was that this font may or may not have some scientific basis. You and I aren't scientists, obviously. And
I'm a scientist.
You are a scientist.
No.
I'm sorry. I'm not.
I'm sitting here in my lab coat. Why else would I be sitting in a studio with a lab coat?
So one of the greatest attorneys out there in the top 10 in the world for many, many years is a guy named Mr. Dowd. And he's the one who used the Comic Sans to send the letter over to Congress. And in the analysis of this, which everybody got on board with, what is he an idiot, disrespectful, all this other stuff, someone took another viewpoint of it. And they said that it's been, I don't know, spoken about or read, or I don't know how much testing's been done, but they said that people with dyslexia find Comic Sans much more comfortable for their eyes and they're able to read it easier. Any thoughts?
Yeah. And if you're presenting that to me because I'm severely dyslexic, then I would say absolutely.
Yeah. Why? How? What does it mean to you? Thanks for sharing that too. I appreciate it.
Because and that's another, professionally, I have to sometimes back away from when we get to building a graphic and utilizing different fonts,
right?
Which is a very, very fine art because fonts also have complementary fonts.
Right.
So if you're going to put a Comic Sans with I don't know, somebody else, just list any one of the millions of fonts that are out there.
Yeah,
you have to be careful because it starts cluttering the eye, or the eye has a hard time picking out what's important and what's not. And non-designers have a tendency to just, let's make this bold, let's make this thin, let's, use this font here. And meanwhile, you have a page that has so many different, it looks like a test pattern. And you have to be real careful about that. Now, going back to the dyslexic part, there are definitely fonts that I can't even read a page that are on there.
Seriously?
There's things, just the way the fonts, I didn't realize all this.
Right.
Because, again, going back to print books, and when print was the only thing that most of us had access to, they had very limited fonts because they were, hard printing, and they weren't going to clutter their machines with all kinds of variations. So books, especially school books, were all done with very similar fonts. Well, for someone with dyslexia, that font just happens to be a hard font to read. So on top of your disability and your processing, you're also being handicapped by, it's like, somebody with a physical disability and only given stairs to go up. It becomes, you can do it, but it's going to become very difficult, and then you just don't want to do it after a while.
And you know what's really funny that you just said this, and I love this because this is so unrehearsed and real conversation. I'm going to read you one sentence from this article, and it says, "The surprising thing about Comic Sans is that while it's strongly disliked by designers and typographers, it's quite popular with school teachers, particle physicists, and non-designer family and friends." A crazy breakdown, right?
Yeah.
So maybe this attorney is writing with Comic Sans because it takes the full spectrum of people who can, quote unquote, dreaded air quotes, normally read stuff, and brings it all the way to the far side of people who are challenged or otherwise, reading things differently, like you said, the dyslexic world or part of the world.
Right.
So by putting it in Comic Sans, you're not excluding anyone. You're completely inclusive. So the guy's not I'm not defending him, but I'm saying maybe he's just not an idiot and being disrespectful to Congress. Maybe he's saying really smart people are dyslexic sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And why not include them in our reading and writing?
Correct. Could be. But like I said, the font itself is already stigmatized.
Yeah.
So as soon as you use it, my initial reaction without knowing anything about this story is that, it's a political dig.
Yep.
It just feels like that to me. You're writing it in what is considered a childish font.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea. But like those scripts, those heavy script fonts,
right?
You might as well just wet the page and draw a finger through ink. I have no idea what it says.
That's crazy. That's really crazy. And just to clarify one thing, this guy, this attorney's history of writing, he has always used that font in his whole career.
Well, there might be something there then.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's why it caught my eye. Because, you could look at it that it's political and blah, 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 blah. But when they said that he always used that font, I'm like, that's interesting. Yeah. Why?
You know what? It's funny you're picking that font out because obviously I've been around since the beginning of these type word processors, Apple On, which is where my roots are. And Comic Sans was one of the first fonts that could have been brought in. As soon as I saw it, I used it everywhere. Professionally, I'm under the restraints of whoever my client is and what they will and will not accept. But if I have the opportunity to do stuff, especially internal within our businesses and just inside our company, I would use Comic Sans all the time because it's easy for me to read. And because we work in a world with a lot of creatives who just end up being the fringe, and they're on the fringe 90% of the time for some sort of disabilities.
Yeah.
It makes it just more comfortable for a lot of people.
That's crazy. And you ready for this bit of trivia to close it out? Mr. Dowd, our attorney, was the special counsel to the Commissioner of Baseball that led the banning of Pete Rose. I wonder if his opinion was all in Comic Sans. I'm going to look that up. And if anybody out there knows it, find it and send it.
Because most bookies use Comic Sans in their writing. So maybe that was the problem with Pete.
There you go. That's how he got caught. He thought it was a joke.
Okay.
Serious business.
Great. This is a great conversation.
Next week.
You got it. As always, don't forget, anybody out there, if you have questions, comments, insights to what we've said or what you've heard, please contact us. We'd love to hear from you. And we would also love your ideas. We keep it as a community, and everything that Faro City does is community-based. So keep the community involved. Peace.
Write to us. We'll write back. Sorry, I didn't mean to step on you, buddy.
No problem. That's what good live production's all about.
There you go. See you next time.
Later.
Thanks for listening to today's show. We've got some really exciting online courses coming up on FaroCity.com. See for yourself the exclusive details at FaroCity.com and make sure you get on board for early notification of class openings, enrollment opportunities, and founding member benefits. Details at ferrocity.com.